And we have to ask ourselves, how can we solve this? Now, when you were in algebra, you did substitution, you did elimination, you did graphing, and all that's great and all that still works. None of that's a problem. But when you get to 3x3s, elimination, graphing, all that stuff gets a little annoying. So it's easier to just use a matrix. So we're going to learn how to solve this just using a matrix. So what we do is we put all our x numbers in one column, all our y numbers in the other column, and all the numbers all by themselves in the third column. So for instance, since that was 1x plus 1y and a negative 3, my first row of my matrix is 1, 1, negative 3. Are there any questions about how I got that first row? Okay. Okay, so the first row is I got it from this equation. The x value had a 1 in front, so I put a 1 there. The y value had a 1 in front, so I put a 1 there. And then negative 3 was all by himself, so I put a negative 3 there. Or Sean, get it together. Okay, on the next row, I see there's a 1 in front of the x, so it's a 1. There are no y's at all, so I put a 0 for the y, and then I put negative 5. Are there any questions about how I got 1, 0, negative 5? Okay, so we're going to do some row operations is what it's called. In fact, they call this an augmented matrix. If you want to know the vocab term, you don't have to know that, except you do have to know how to solve that problem. So we have to do some row operations. It's called elementary row operations in order to turn this first guy into the identity matrix. So what we want to see is we want to see 1, 0, 0, 1. Okay, so moral of the story, and I'll show you how to do it in a second. But so our goal is to end up having this identity matrix, 1, 0, 0, 1 on the left, and then the two numbers on the right are our solutions. So our solution is negative 5, 2. So I got to show you the steps in between. But basically, you're taking a problem that was equations, writing it as a matrix, pulling some voodoo magic involving matrices to end up turning it into that identity matrix. This is like a major thing for discrete to learn. Like, this was more important than matrix multiplication even, sadly enough. And the reason is because it can be used for more things, like word problems. Okay, so we had our problem. I'm going to solve it down here. They explained how they solved it above, but in case you didn't read, because I know most of us didn't. It said 1, 1, negative 3, 1, 0, negative 5. That was our problem. Our issue right now, what's our issue on the top row? What's wrong with it?
We need a 0.
We need this to be a 0. We've got to make this a 0. So we're going to, it says need a 0. I need to pick a new color. We're going to have to do something in order to make that a 0. Okay, so what we can do is we can add the rows together. That's still not going to give us a 0 there. We can multiply a row by a certain number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first row. No, not the first row.
You add 2 rows?
Yeah, you can add 2 rows together, but that's not necessarily going to help us.
Can you add something to one row and add something to another?
Yeah, so we can do a lot. We can solve this multiple ways. So the easiest thing I can think of to do at the moment, yeah, I could do that. Or we're allowed to even flip. So when it says row operations, here's the list. I knew there was a list. Here are your options. Your options for row operations are that you can swap 2 rows. You can multiply a row by any number you want, as long as it's not 0. Or you can add 2 rows together, even a multiple row. You can multiply the top one by 2 and then add it to the bottom one. Okay, so let's look at what we had. What would be the easiest thing to do right now? Wouldn't the easiest thing to do right now be to swap 2 rows? Because isn't that second row already 1, 0 like we wanted? So why don't we swap them? So 1, 0, negative 5, 1, 1, negative 3. And I'm going to make a list of things I did, so I know you have to make a list. No, it just helps you to think it through. I swapped rows. Are there any questions about how I got that one?
It's not done yet.
No, are we done yet? What's wrong with the second row?
We need a 0.
This needs to be a 0.
So you can just,
Why don't you just do the first row minus the second row? Or the second row minus the first row. Let's do it that way. So if we did, we're good with the first row, right? There's nothing wrong with it. Everything's fine. So I'm going to leave it 1, 0, negative 5. We're not messing with him. There's nothing wrong with him. We're going to leave him alone. Our issues with that second row. We need this to be a 0. Now, if we subtract 1 minus 1, don't we get 0?
yeah.
So why don't we do this row minus this row? So 1 minus 1 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. Negative 3 minus 5, that's negative 8. I can't subtract today. Negative 3 minus a negative 5 would be positive 2. Good grief. Okay, so let me say that again. I did the bottom row minus the top row. So I did 1 minus 1. I got 0. I did 1 minus 0. I got 1. And then I did negative 3 minus a negative 5, which is where I made my sign error, because it really should be a positive 2. Is there any questions about how I got 0, 1, 2?
So all of these
negative 8.
are all these going to be 1s and 0s? Just the 1s and 0s?
Yeah, so our goal, again, like we've reached the answer when we have that identity matrix on the left. And we have 2 answers on the right. Now, again, how I made the issue was I did 1 minus 1, I got 0. 1 minus 0, I got 1. I did negative 3 minus negative 5. So it ends up being positive 5 minus 3, so it should be a positive 2. That's where I made my sign error. Now, if you made a teeny tiny sign error like that at the end, you know I'm only going to count off like 2 points. It's not going to be enough to matter. Now, it'd be smart if you go and plug it back in the equation. So the equation was x plus y equals negative 3. Our solution says negative 5, 2, meaning x is negative 5, y is 2, y is 2. So could you plug in negative 5 plus 2? Does that equal negative 3? Well, yes, it does. So can Arshawn plug it back in and check himself? Of course. That's what's great about math class. Okay, are there any questions about that one? I'm going to do a couple more, but you know you who have zoned out, eventually it's going to be your problem. That's why you have a maze. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple today and probably a couple tomorrow. So the ones I'm going to do today, let's start off with, I'll do number 1. I don't necessarily have enough room, but I'll try. Okay, what is the matrix I should write? Using that equation, x plus y, negative 3.
Negative 3. 1, 4, negative
Yes, it's going to work for that too. Yes, dear. Okay, and then for the, does everyone understand how I got 1, 1, negative 3 for that top row?
1, 4, negative 5.
Okay, on the bottom row, I've got 1, 4, negative 5. Oh my goodness, this matrix has some issues. We really need it to have 1, 0, 0, 1. It's not looking in the form we need, so we're going to have to do a couple more operations than we did before. We could swap rows, but is swapping rows really going to help us right now? No. So we've got to do something. We need this to be a 0.
We got to multiply. No, we got to add.
So, need a 0. So I'm going to write it again at the bottom because I don't have enough room. It was 1, 1, negative 3, 1, 4, negative 5. We're going to have to do something to make this a 0. Now, if we look back at those options we had, it said we can multiply our rows by a non-zero and that we can add them together. So Braxton's already on it. We can use that second row to help us out. If we want this to be a 0 and we need those two to cancel out, don't we need negative 4 and positive 4 so they'll go away? So the easiest thing to do is to multiply that whole top row by negative 4. So that means my matrix is changing. It is now negative 4, positive 12, 1, 4, negative 5. Now you're like, Bryson, you're a goober. Why would you do this? Because when I add those together, I mean, it looks great. When I add those together, I'm going to have negative 3, 0, 12. And I'm still not messing with that second row. I haven't changed him this whole stinking time. So Bryson's right, but he's also creating a bunch of work for us too. Because are we at that, do we at least have the top row in the identity form? No. We have a new issue. What's our new issue?
It's a negative 3 now.
What does this need to be?
A 1. I don't know how you're going to get that.
Why don't you just divide everybody by negative 3?
And then you'll have a
Okay, so if I was listing out my steps, because sometimes that helps people. If we go back to the beginning, the first step, we multiplied everybody by negative 4. Our second step was we added the rows together. And now I'm suggesting, via Bryson getting us in this predicament, maybe it's a good idea to divide that top row by negative 3. So if I divide that top row by negative 3 divided by negative 3, well, that's 1. I'd be at 1, 0, negative 4. Are there any questions on how I got 1, 0, negative 4? And then I have 1, 4, negative 5. So far, so good. At least these two I'm happy with. Now I've got to figure out this bottom two, because they're still not in the right form. What do I need to be down in this bottom left? A 0. So how am I going to make that a 0? Do what?
What are we going to use this in real life?
Not really for word problems. Not really. When are you ever going to use most of the stuff we've learned in discrete in real life? My gosh. For a math degree. Most of this is for a math degree. Again, why did you take discrete, not pre-calculus? We talk about this all the time.
I already have my.
I know. So, he's right. You were right, Tyler. We're going to subtract the rows. 1 minus 1 is 0. 4 minus 0 is 4. Negative 5 minus a negative 4 ends up being negative 5 plus 4, so we get a negative 1.
Hold on.
Okay, so I did
Subtract.
I did
Subtract it from the bottom.
I
to the
did
top.
1 minus 1 to get 0. Yeah.
Alright.
4 minus 0 to get 4.
Alright, I got
Negative 5 minus negative 4, and I got negative 1. Besides our Sean.
I'm still getting confused on.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm stinking with you.
I
Are there any questions on how I got that?
Nope.
I'm stinking with you. Is it right?
how's it?
Am I done?
No.
Okay. Oh, back to that. We did negative 5 minus a negative 4. So that's how I got negative 1. That keeps happening to you, Sean. You're with me, the negatives. Because then it ends up being negative 5 plus 4 and you get negative 1.
You gotta put it in for real.
No. If you just, can you think it through in your brain? Negative 5 minus negative 4 ends up being negative 5 plus 4.
Minus signs, then make your sign in the minus sign. So when you do this, you change it to the sign.
Chris, yeah.
To make it negative 5 plus.
Okay, so I know. I never said this was going to be exciting. No. I cannot deal with the stupidity. You are not this stupid. Okay. What's wrong with the bottom? What's wrong? There's not a 1 here. This needs to be a 1. So how can we make that a 1?
What are you asking?
How can we make this 4 a 1? Yeah. That's what we're going to do.
We're not making boards today. You know what?
He's right. He was completely right. So we would have 1, 0, negative 4, 0, 1, and negative 1/4. So our answer is negative 4, negative 1/4. We're allowed to have fractions. It is math class.
Alright.
Okay.
You ain't gonna try to make that, but you know.
Okay. So
negative 4.0.
negative 4 and negative 1/4 is our answer. So the x is negative 4, the y is negative 1/4. If I had to write it in an ordered pair, I would put negative 4, negative 1/4. If I had to.
Could there be more?
Okay, so No, there cannot. Let's do number 2, and then I know you cut up all your puzzle and you're so proud of yourself, and I'm going to give you a paper clip for it unless you want to attempt it today. My real goal is just to do the first 5. I'll do number 2 with you. Heck, I'd do all 5 with you, but you know that I've almost lost 90% of you at the moment already, so I'm going to stop after number 2.
No, but let's just keep solving them like this, how we're doing it right now.
Sounds good. Okay, so
It's gonna be 2, 1, negative.
we're going to do it tomorrow. That was my plan all along. I was just going to go ahead and get you to cut it up.
2, 1, negative 1.
Wow.
Well, then it's perfect. You already have it in your hands. And ask me questions now. Oh, I wrote -3, -1.
Since there's an X, will we just
Yes,
0, 1, negative 6.
perfect.
So is the bottom one already complete?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Arshawn is so smart today. He's going to get in the gum bag. Thank you, Arshawn.
What?
Thank you,
Are you
Arshawn.
kidding me?
No.
I've been over here answering everything.
She does.
What did he say? Oh, yeah. Why am I not?
We don't know.
What?
We're listening.
Truth. What did he say? That was so smart.
Well, he mumbles. 2 people was talking and he
I couldn't hear anything.
I heard it.
mumble.
Can you say it again?
I was.
It was really
Oh, I
good.
just said the bottom one's already complete.
Because it's already 0-1.
What he said really was, oh wow, what a genius.
Yeah. The fact that he recognized. Yeah.
Whoever said that is trying.
No. I think it's really good. He realized the bottom needed to be 0-1. He realized it was already in that form. That means he's understanding today.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Because you're doing the first 5.
I did.
Perfect. Then go ahead and do your puzzle. Get it out the way. Get your life together. Yes. But I'm telling you, I'll sit here and go over them all with you.
I don't even got this. I don't even have this.
Okay.
I already got this.
If she gonna go over it with you, that's good.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
So what do you take these photos?
Okay, but what do I need to do? If I divide by 2, it would be 1, 1/2, and -1/2. He said, it was Arshawn's idea. He said for that top, he said the bottom row is good to go. Yeah. Okay, so he said that bottom row was good to go. He said that for the top row, since he wants a 1 in that spot, why don't I just divide everybody by 2 so a 1 would be in that spot. So I got 1, 1/2, and -1/2. Now, it's not a bad idea, but like everyone's complaining about, now we're in fraction land, and no one wants to be in fraction land. So there probably was a different way. Probably was a better way. Yeah. I would subtract the second row. Okay, so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Recording, you know that, right?
I need to stop that. Will you stop that? Just go press stop.
Tic-tac-toe.